Oh, hey there. So we're finally here, the 9th generation of consoles. You know, every time a new generation of consoles comes out, I feel like a kid again. There's just something so refreshing about new hardware, new software, new controllers, new games, maybe? Whenever a new console comes out, there's what I like to call the new console hump. I absolutely love new console launches. Personally, the only two consoles I've gotten the day they launched was the Switch and now the PS5. I came pretty close to the PS4, but I was off by a couple of weeks due to, well, it being so hard to find. Sort of like, something else everybody's currently going through right now. I'm not going to debate whether it's a good idea or a bad idea to get a new console on launch, as I'm pretty firmly in the boat of do whatever makes you happy, because ultimately, who cares what anybody else thinks? But I do think people who get consoles early need to be prepared to deal with potential disappointment. What do I mean by that? Well, really I'm just referring to the games. Launch titles can be very hit or miss. Hell, even the Famicom and the NES didn't launch with Super Mario Bros. So if you're going into a brand new console launch, it's a good idea to potentially lower your expectations. That isn't to say they're all bad. The Switch launching with Breath of the Wild was pretty huge, and the PlayStation 5 coming out with Demon's Souls, as well as being bundled with Astro's Playroom, is phenomenal. No joke, Astro's Playroom is a perfect gem, and could have easily be considered a contender for Game of the Year, had more than 17 people been able to get a hold of the PlayStation 5 this year. But if you look towards, say, the PS4 or the PS3, their launch titles weren't exactly riveting. In fact, you could say that the hump for the PS3 was quite large. So what is the hump? Well, I like to think of it as the time frame from when a console is released to when the games coming out for it aren't just ports of the previous generation. The hump is strange, because when it's gone, you often forget that it even existed. Being somewhat of a collector, I always had this dream of owning every video game. Obviously, the odds of this happening are incredibly slim, and my collection pales in comparison to most real video game collectors. But whenever a new console is released, I'll say to myself, this is the perfect time to get every single game as they release. It makes sense because if there's only like 4 games at launch and you snag each game as they come out, then you'll have no problem completing your collection later down the line. It'll already be complete. But therein lies the problem. The hump disappears quicker than you realize. Soon enough, you'll be flooded with more first-party, third-party, and indie titles than you can even afford, and then suddenly, just like that, the hump is completely gone. But a lack of games isn't the only part of the hump. There's another, slightly more frustrating part that's only become relevant in the last couple of generations of consoles. When we transitioned from the 4th generation to the 5th generation, it was a pretty big leap. In Nintendo's case, it was jumping from 16-bit sprite-based games to 64-bit polygons. When they released the Nintendo 64, they left everything SNES in the past. The same could be said with the jump from the NES to the SNES. When a game released on the console, it stayed on the console and that was that. I'm not referring to games that had ports within the same generation, such as Earthworm Jim or Street Fighter II, but the practice of releasing a game towards the end of a console generation, then releasing the game again on the new console when it comes out, aka the hump. I hold here Devil May Cry 5. Now, I was pretty excited for this game when it first came out. I'd only played the first 3 games, so I went and tracked down a physical copy of Devil May Cry 4. The plan was that I was going to play through all 4 games and really get myself ready for Devil May Cry 5. The problem being that I was so burnt out from the absolute show that was Devil May Cry 2 that I had to take a break from the series halfway through 3. Now, the PlayStation 5 has come out, and I haven't even played Devil May Cry 5 on my PlayStation 4. So what has Capcom gone and done? Well, they released an updated version of Devil May Cry 5 on the PlayStation 5, and my stupid brain wants me to get that, because why wouldn't I want to play that game on the best hardware? Why wouldn't I want to play the best version of that game? I'd much rather a game be released and that's that. We buy it, we play it, we enjoy it, we move on. The idea of upgraded or enhanced versions of games isn't exactly new, as going as far back as the Atari, we see games released on the Atari 2600, followed by the 5200, followed by the 7800, each time getting a graphical upgrade. Super Mario All-Stars, of course, comes to mind as well, being an enhanced remake of Mario 1, 2, 3, and the Lost Levels. But the difference in these games compared to what's going on today is how big of a change or improvement they are. Jumping from 8-bit sprites and music to 16-bit sprites and music was huge. But Devil May Cry 5 was already a very pretty game. The graphical upgrades, while noticeable when side by side with the PS4, still aren't that big. We've hit the point in technology where graphics don't really mean all that much anymore, and games getting upgraded versions like this feel a lot more like cash grabs than anything else. Lastly, there's the other side of this coin, with an example being the now infamous release of Cyberpunk 2077. This game was initially conceived back in 2012, initially set for a release date of April 16th, 2020, delayed to September 17th, and then November 19th. During this time, it was announced that a version would be coming for the next generation consoles with a free upgrade if you purchased it on PS4 or Xbox One. After numerous delays, it was released on December 10th, 2020, as a pretty fun experience if you were playing it on the PC, PS5, or Xbox One X, and an unplayable show if played on a base Xbox One or PS4. Now, as of recording this video, CD Projekt Red has made a statement apologizing for misleading consumers while also admitting to misleading both Sony and Microsoft, and has since been completely removed from the PSN store. Ultimately though, I feel like this could have been avoided had they just delayed the game again and released it only on the next gen consoles. Would that have annoyed a lot of consumers? Yeah, probably, but in the end, they would have been a lot happier playing a game that was fun and complete as opposed to this. That's the problem with the Hump, is that nowadays, when games get released, they have to be released on as many platforms as possible to make as much money as possible. When a new console gets released, I want to play new games. I realize that I used Demon's Souls as an example as a great launch title for the PS5, but to me, Demon's Souls on PS5 is much like Mario All-Stars on the SNES. It's such a drastic improvement built from the ground up that I can accept it. But imagine if, when the N64 released, Nintendo had just padded the first couple of months with SNES titles that they released at the very end of the SNES line. People would have been pissed. But nowadays, it's just standard practice. I'm not saying all ports are bad. Sometimes ports can be a great way for people to play a game that released on a console they never owned from 20 years ago. I just wish that companies would fully embrace new consoles once they can start development for them. Out with the old, in with the new. Now speaking of new, it's high time that I play the hottest new handheld of 2020. Oh yeah, this is the new content that I've been waiting for.